We did it! I currently no longer have daily voice hoarseness, or more importantly, I don't have any swallowing problems. Stay tuned to learn how I eliminated these two IBM problems from my daily life. Today's episode is directed at people with inclusion body myositis that are experiencing swallowing difficulties or what is known as dysphagia. When this problem persists, many IBMers turn to a stomach feeding tube as recommended by their gastroenterologist, maybe before considering any other alternatives. Good day, Jerry here again. For anyone interested in IBM or inclusion body myositis, you know the drill. Subscribe if you have not already done so when watching more than one of the other 120 other episodes on this IB Myositis channel. At the beginning of my last video, I had to apologize for the quality of my voice. My voice had continued to deteriorate over the last couple of months to a point where my speech could no longer be understood due to a more persistent restriction felt in my throat. This restriction affected not only my voice, but it also took my swallowing problems to a new difficult level. So goes IBM. As an alternative to a feeding tube, as usually promoted by a gastroenterologist, an ear, nose, and throat doctor will encourage a procedure offered within their domain, a cricopharyngeal myotomy. After experiencing declining dysphagia over the last 8 years and diagnosed with upper esophageal sphincter dysfunction in 2018, I studied multiple alternatives and selected the advantages of the cricopharyngeal myotomy. The cricopharyngeal muscle surrounds the esophagus and must relax at the proper time to allow the upper esophageal sphincter to open and allow food to pass into the esophagus on its way to the stomach. If the cricopharyngeal muscle does not relax, swallowing is either difficult or nearly impossible. In IBM, the cricopharyngeal muscle is often dysfunctional and doesn't open at the proper time, causing a choking sensation. About 6 months ago, my voice started to become hoarse towards the end of almost every day. It gradually became worse and started occurring earlier and earlier every day, soon affecting my voice in such a way that any audio recordings for these videos had to be done the first thing in the morning. This hoarseness was not accompanied by any sore throat or indication of any illness, but rather seemed to be caused by some unknown pressure, like something was exerting pressure on my throat. As it grew even worse, it took so much breath to speak that sometimes I could only say 2 or 3 words without gasping for another breath of air. With my swallowing being worse later in the day and my voice going hoarse as the day wore on, I concluded there had to be a common factor between the two. Realizing that a feeding tube would not help either problem, in my troubleshooting way of thinking, there was a chance that what might fix one might fix both. So I scheduled for November 8th to have a cricopharyngeal myotomy performed by an ENT who had performed this procedure successfully on at least 2 other IBMers that I know of. To my surprise, my wife Cindy learned in the waiting room that this same doctor was also performing a cricopharyngeal myotomy on another IBMer from the local area scheduled right after my surgery. During the cricopharyngeal myotomy, the cricopharyngeal muscle is uncovered and split to allow the easing of tension around the esophagus and upper esophageal sphincter. I was hoping, and my hopes were rewarded, that it would also ease my ability to speak in a more clear voice. As many other IBMers have experienced, hoarseness can be very prevalent, especially later in the day. In my case, I had to do any video recording very early in the day. The myotomy procedure is done under full anesthesia and takes between 45 minutes to an hour. The next thing I remember was waking up in the recovery room. I was told there was a short drainage tube coming out of my throat area that would stay in for a couple of days. About 30 minutes later, I was returned to my pre-op room and asked if I wanted anything to eat or drink. Feeling thirsty and hungry, I consumed a half a can of 7-Up, and my wife fed me a container of applesauce. To my delight, everything went down without a problem, without any delay, without any choking, and little, if any, discomfort. The dressing covering the drain tube from my incision area was changed, and the nurse began my hospital discharge instructions. About 3 hours later, after the start of my surgery, I was hoisted from my bed to my power chair and was secured on the passenger side of our ramp van for a 1-hour ride home. Upon arrival at our home, that small container of applesauce I had eaten in the hospital was no longer satisfying my hunger control, and Cindy fixed me a can of beef vegetable soup that had plenty of vegetables and surprisingly large chunks of meat. Although being cautious the first couple of bites, I soon became comfortable with how the food morsels were going down my throat and without any pain or discomfort. And I ate it all up. When waking up in the morning after a good night's rest, I realized I had not been awakened by any pooling of saliva in my throat or any sensation of choking while in the prone position. 2 days later, I returned back to the doctor's office to have the drain tube removed. The doctor explained that during the surgery, when he exposed the cricopharyngeal muscle, it looked angry and swollen. He also told me he sent a biopsy off to the lab to be analyzed. On the 7th day, I returned to have the stitches pulled and asked about the biopsy. The lab report read, specimen was consistent with myositis. The cricopharyngeal myotomy is a surgery that can fix most of your swallowing problems, and in my case, also fixed the hoarseness of voice that I was experiencing every day. It's been 2 weeks since I've had my surgery, and Cindy has not had to run for the choke cup, not even once. I believe this surgery was as much a relief for her, my caregiver, as it was for me. Sure, a cricopharyngeal myotomy doesn't do anything for my arm or leg strength, but at least has given us peace of mind relating to eating food by mouth and having a clear and understandable voice. I married a caring person that is also a good cook, and it would be a shame not to be able to taste her cooking. If anyone has any questions about this procedure that I can answer, please contact me at ibmyositis@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.